Is now called to order. It is May 7th, 2025, and the time is 6:30 p.m. Our mission is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Heather, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And then when you're ready, can you please call roll?
The following board members are present at the District Administration Office. Scott Andresen.
Here.
Natalie Copeland.
Here.
Al Dahlgren.
Here.
Zach Dorholt. Here. Diana Fenton.
Here.
Shannon Hawes.
Here.
Heather Weems. Here. The following cabinet members and staff are present at the District Administration Office. Superintendent Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education Dr. Jason Harris, Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning Nikki Hansen, Assistant Superintendent of E12 Educational Services Shannon Avenson, Executive Director of Community Education Adam Holm, Executive Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations Tracy Flynn-Blow, Executive Director of Operations, Joel Heitkamp, Executive Director of Special Projects, Gary Ganji, Director of Community Engagement and Communications, Tammy DeLand, Media Technicians, Paul Novak and Gordy Scott, and the custodian on site is Austin Goodwater.
Thank you. Then I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's Board of Education meeting and work session agenda.
So move.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. Heather, can you call vote?
Shannon Hawes?
Yes.
Diana Fenton?
Yes.
Zach Dorholt? Yes. Al Dahlgren?
Yes.
Natalie Copeland?
Yes.
Scott Andresen?
Yes.
Heather Weems? Yes.
Okay. And then we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items that the board adopts routinely without debate. A single member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, item A, approval of personnel staff changes. Item B, approval of monthly financial reports for March 2025. Item C, approval of monthly treasurer's report for March 2025. And item D, call for bids, milk. At this time, does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So move.
I have a motion by Scott, a second by Natalie. Heather, can you call vote?
Natalie Copeland? Yes. Zach Dorholt? Yes. Shannon Hawes?
Yes.
Heather Weems? Yes. Diana Fenton?
Yes.
Al Dahlgren?
Yes.
Scott Andresen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Up tonight, we have one informational item. Always looking forward to this. We have the Community Education and Adult Basic Education update. We have Adam Holm, Executive Director of Community Education, and then we have Jennifer Noble, Supervisor of Community Education Program, and Carolyn Nurhaus, Supervisor of Adult Basic Education, and then some wonderful guest speakers tonight. Looking forward to this. Thank you for joining us.
In my classroom, how I try to create a sense of belonging is just in very simple ways, where I try to show them I'm happy to see them. I use their name. I will interact with them. I let them know that they are important to me and important to our classroom. And so I think that's just overall kind of what we do here. Like, we want people to feel like they belong. This is a safe place for them. You can be comfortable here. We will help you. And then they're learning. They work so hard to learn. We practice working on things where they can communicate with their doctor, they can communicate at the store, they know how to speak about money and bills and things like that, the things that they need every day. And hopefully it just makes them feel more comfortable dealing with those things.
Adult education is a service that we provide to adults who are 17 years of age and older, who are not enrolled in the K-12 system, and they're coming to us for either one of two reasons. They'd like to learn English as a second language, or they are coming to study to get their GED or adult diploma.
I need to learn English. I'm coming to speak, reading, writing.
It's something important to me. Before I didn't know anything. Now I know everything a little bit. I read a little bit. I understand everything now. Read and writing. That is my focus. And I like it. And I understand a little bit now. I'm not like before.
Feel like when we're here in class, we'll do things together, like they'll do activities where they work with a partner, or we play games and have fun together. And yeah, it's really good for them. Kids Connection is a before-school program that helps families give their kids a place to go before school starts, if they have to get to work earlier than normal. It just gives them a place to go and just hang out in the mornings, gets them in routine, like in a space they're comfortable with.
Just having that solid routine is helpful for all children, and I love giving them agency. Like, the schedule is very important, so we do stick to a schedule. And I have the kids help me. They get some agency in writing the schedule for each month. Each month we write a new one. I really would like to empower them to have their voice heard, and that really does kickstart that sense of belonging right away for anyone who's coming in. And maintaining that is to give them that opportunity to share what they think.
Having it at the schools helps the parents just have that comfort of knowing, like, this is a familiar location. There's no what if, how's my kid gonna get to their class? Where are they gonna go? So it helps get rid of that worry for them, because they do have a spot for their kids to go, and they know that it's a safe place for them to be, and to know that they'll get to school and like get to their classes when they need to.
I love ABE.
We love Kids Connection!
And thank you to our communications team for this video to help us tell our story. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Noble, and I am the supervisor for Community Ed. We're excited to share a program update with you this evening. The District 742 Adult Enrichment Program gives participants a chance to sample affordable activities, refine skills, socialize, and pursue interests. Our instructors come from the community and have a genuine desire to share their knowledge with you. These fee-supported activities are located in our community or in our school buildings. With a wide range of choices, Adult Enrichment truly has something for everyone, including fitness programs such as the walking program and open gym. This past year, we had 6,801 total open gym participants at elementary and middle schools. Open gym pickleball is quickly shaping up to be a favorite. Adult enrichment classes are offered in a variety of categories, such as health and fitness, computer and technology, finance, dance, creative, home and garden, foods, special interests, travel, and more. This past year, we had 1,162 adult enrichment participants, which are unique users of the program, sign up for classes. A highlight was the driver discount program for adults ages 55 plus, which is offered in conjunction with SCSU and the Precision Driving Center. Participants completing this course can save money on auto insurance. Other adult enrichment classes this past year, which were favorites, include yoga, pottery, line dancing, and learning how to cook a variety of cultural foods. Project Challenge, offered through District 742, provides specially designed community ed programs for anyone 16 years of age or older with a disability. And we aspire to provide classes that foster independence and personal growth, teach basic living skills, as well as to spend time with friends by offering recreational and social opportunities for them. This past year, Project Challenge served 211 participants with 2,631 enrollments. We offered 172 classes in the categories of arts and crafts, just for fun, recreation and fitness, special events, and trips. Popular classes such as bowling and movie nights are held at area business locations, and our newest fitness class, Wellness Beats, is offered through Recreo Therapeutics. We also partner with ARC Minnesota on classes. ARC works across the state to provide advocacy and information for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their trusted supporters. Through our youth enrichment program, we strive to help young participants pursue their interests, expand their abilities, and develop their creative side in a safe, friendly, and inclusive environment. These programs take place at a variety of times and locations and are offered for preschool through high school age kids. This past year, we served 3,301 participants with 2,052 unique users through youth enrichment. We offered 658 classes, including arts and crafts, food, sports, recreation, food, babysitting, horse camps, technology, drones, BMX, nature, and more. We also held 298 aquatics classes through youth enrichment with 1,124 participants with 785 unique users. Our summer registration is open and we are hiring. As a district, we also had 1,079 active volunteers, including Apollo and Tech High School National Honor Societies, Apollo Swim and Dive, and the City of St. Cloud Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, RSVP volunteers who supported the One District, One Book Literacy Program launch event at program sponsor Shields Store. And last but not least, a big shout out to the Madison Elementary volunteers who logged 650 hours in March alone. Volunteer applications for 2025 to 26 school year can be found under Community Ed on the district website. We invite all members of our community to take part in one or several of our classes, activities, and programs targeted towards enriching the lives of individuals, friends, families, and students. And if you see something you like, share it with someone else who may enjoy it too. And now I'd like to introduce Caroline, your host, Supervisor for Adult Education. Caroline.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. Okay, in the state of Minnesota, adult education is divided into consortia. We are part of the Central Minnesota Consortium. We have 30 school districts, 14 active sites, and 1,900 students. In our immediate St. Cloud area, we have 880 students. And in the St. Cloud area, we offer 35 different classes at 5 different sites. Our largest site by far is Quarry View. We are very busy over there. We have a site in St. Joseph, La Cruz Community Center, which is over by the college, a site at the Great Rivers Regional Library downtown, and then a site in Sartell. All right, in the video you heard me describe our 2 main populations that we serve. So our largest population are those seeking to learn English. We have 6 levels of English language classes. We also offer state standard adult diploma and GED classes, citizenship, and people can also come to us to just beef up their reading and writing skills and to prepare for the AccuPlacer. And this year, our career pathway class was English for childcare. This year, I conducted a school climate survey. I really wanted to measure the 4 pillars of our school district: safety, collaboration, excellence, and belonging. And I was very, very pleased with our results. and I think it's a real testament to our dedicated and professional staff. 92% of the 277 students who responded said all students in my school are treated equally. 97% said yes, the teachers treat me with respect. 97% said teachers care about me. 96% said they feel like they belong. 99% said they are learning in my class, and the same for the things I am learning are important to me. This is a graph that just shows our growth over the last 5 years, and yes, we are still growing. This is in the St. Cloud area, and we just finished our contact hour reporting year, and we finished over 90,000 hours this year. Our graduation ceremony is coming up. We have about 78 people so far who have passed either their GED or their adult diploma. This year's ceremony is at 6 o'clock on May 28th at Tech High School, and I know many of you like to see that, so I hope you'll be able to join us. And before I turn it over to my student speakers, I would like to say partnerships and relationships in the community is something that I value and is important. We have a few different special partnerships. Central Minnesota Community Empowerment Organization allows us to hold classes at La Cruz. We have a relationship with Career Solutions, the Workforce Center. They send a representative over to enroll our 17 to 24-year-olds in a program. And once they finish either their GED or adult diploma, they may be eligible for free training at the technical college. And then other partnerships like the Once Upon a Child donations have been very much appreciated by our students. And we make sure that both our daytime and our evening students have access to those. So thank you all for your support of our program. And now I would like to introduce the first speaker. Her name is Sharon Randall, and Sharon, you will have to explain the significance of the Culver's treats, okay?
Hello, how you guys doing today? My name is Sharon. I just want to say that I am very grateful to be here today. Can you guys hear me? Like I do talk loud, but I won't talk too loud right now. So my journey is, I came a long way to get here, right? My story goes way back yonder. So I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. It was like a struggle. I was like, got into some lot of stuff and, you know, using drugs and stuff like that. Had kids at a young age hanging out. School wasn't, no, I ain't see no interest in going to school. The teacher throw you something, say do it. I ain't know what it was. Hey, when they let me out, the bus let me out, I'm going through the front door and out the back door. One that's smoking weed, doing whatever. So I didn't see no interest in going to school back then, you know. So as I got, go along, I don't want to cry. I never cried in a while. But it's so emotionally not, but it's a good emotion, right? So as I got older, I was abused, you know, and all this stuff. You know, I gave someone power over me, right? So when I learned how to take that power back, right, I grew. I always had God in my heart. I left him, but he never left me. So when I came around and I prayed, I got on my knees, I just say, God, use me. And with that being said, I went to the rehab and I followed through. Went to the rehab, I was consistent. You know, I was getting in trouble and the judge told me she had the keys. She shook the keys. She said, these are the keys to you guys successful, right? I raised my hand and said, Your Honor, disrespect, but those keys do not belong to me. You're going to have this first drop going to be dirty, but the rest of the drops are not going to be dirty. I had a second chance. I said, okay, God, I see you. You're working through people. I see you. So I did the program. I did whatever I had to do. They called me a rock star. My tests were never dirty anymore because I wanted a chance. When I went to the program, they asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I want to make a change. And I changed. So with that being said, I celebrate within a few more months, 10 years clean from drugs for anything, right? I was consistent. I took my life back. I was very determined to come back to school. So when I came to AVE, right, program, and I had Googled it up. I live up the street, right down the street from it, no excuse. So when I came there, I took the test, I was qualified. So Naomi, I never forget it like yesterday. She said, well, you know, it's a lot of people you're on a waiting list. As I turned around to go down the stairs, she said, oh, wait a minute, Sharon, it's room. I said, okay, God, I see you again, keep on, keep on. And I knew at that time it was for me. You know, it was my turn. It was my turn to keep on going. I never gave up. I kept going, I kept going, I kept going. And it was my job to make sure I get my high school diploma. I will be 61 years old, and you know what? You're never too old to learn. And you know what, guys? I feel so grateful this program. All the teachers, I mean, I am so glad that you guys, you know, we have this program to help us out, you know. When I got there, that math, oh my God, I was like, no. I was like, no, what you talking about? You got to do algebra. I said, when? I don't even know that. But when I got there, the teachers helped me to understand what I was doing. I've been acing it. I've been getting hundreds, I've been getting 90s, I've been getting 80s. All my classes, I've been doing it. I have no low grades. I've been doing it. So with that being said, I'm finna graduate next year, but it's okay. But I get my diploma in about 2 months. And I am so very grateful, y'all. When I say I want to have me a prom, yes, I do. I want to have a prom, y'all. I'm going to go through the whole shebang. You know, I want to, if I have to come out my pocket, I will. It's something that I, you know, made priority for me to do. And for you guys, I really appreciate you guys for being here, for us to have the opportunity for us to learn. Without y'all, I don't know where I'd be at. And the teacher, especially Carolina, oh my God. All the teachers. I see you back there, Drew. He picks my brains. I promise you, my teacher, yes. He picks my brain. I'm glad he's here to support me, you know. And I just give out the energy, good energy, because I want everybody to win, you know. With that being said, I really appreciate it. I'm going to give it to you now, okay? Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And Sharon, can the custard you have is because of Sharon. She works at Culver, so that was her treat for you all tonight.
Only Adam did it.
Thank you. Okay. Our next student speaker is Maria del Rosario Camacho Castellan.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for this opportunity today to talk about this wonderful program that is IB. My name is Maria Camacho. I was born in Minnesota, but I was raised in Mexico. 4 years ago, I had to pack 20 years of my life in a suitcase and leave everything behind, my family, my friends, and everything I knew, to move to Minnesota with the hope of a better future. My mother language is Spanish, so when I came back to Minnesota, I didn't know any English at all. One day I heard about this program from one of my brother's friends, and I stopped by Quarry View to get registered a week after that. I was really interested in learning English, so I got tested the same day, and I got placed into the level 1 and 2 of ESL classes. At first, I didn't understand very well what was going on in class, but something I would like to say is that teachers and staff were always very kind and very patient. And I really liked the classes. I tried to push myself to learn the new vocabulary and practice speaking and listening as much as I could. That way I made it to the level 3 and 4, and I went to school every day without missing any class. then I got tested again, and I got into the level 5. Sorry, and after that, I got into the level 6. It took me a year to get to this level. That is the highest level of ESL classes. And once I got into the level 6, I got offered the GED and diploma classes. I already graduated from high school in Mexico, but I am looking forward to go to college. So this seemed like a great opportunity to me to improve my English and prepare to go to college. So I started diploma classes with Drew too. And after a while, I got a job offer to work at Discovery Elementary School, working as a clerical. I was working in a retail store at that time, so this was a big opportunity to me. I applied to the job, I got an interview, and I got the job. It made me very happy. And a few months later, I got another job offer to work at Quarryview, working as a clerical too in the ABE program. And now I work with amazing people, and I help Spanish speakers in both of my jobs. And that's something I could not even imagine when I first came back to Minnesota. I keep preparing myself to go to college because even if I am away from my family, I want to make them proud. So now being a small part of the ABE program, that makes me very happy. Thank you.
Before we ask for questions, also so people understand Maria's journey, so she works at 10:30 in the morning at Discovery, and she takes the bus, because we're on the bus line, and then from Discovery, then at night, you come and you work night school for ABE. So she works, at Discovery during the day and then at night, and then on weekends and other days, she works for a local retailer. So really, she has 3 jobs, she's going to school, and eventually you're going to become a teacher, and hopefully in our district. Yes, that's what we push to her all the time. So are there any questions?
Scott?
What brought Maria back to Minnesota? You said you were born here, and I assume your family went to Mexico. What brought you back?
So my mom took me to Mexico when I was 1 year old, and I have my oldest brother living here. He's been living here for 23 years now. So he asked me 2 weeks before I got into Minnesota, like, if you want to come to Minnesota and go to college here, and I said yeah, and I just prepared in 2 weeks. I got everything in my suitcase, and I traveled like 20 hours to get to Minnesota. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam, can you talk a little bit about the different sources of funding? So like in community ed, I know we get the magazine and there's a charge for all of the different classes. Does that cover the full cost as well? I mean, do the teachers also get a portion of that? How does that work? And then like with ABE, again, where do funding sources come from?
Yep. So with ABE, there's 4 fundings, 4 different streams: population, and you can probably rattle them all off, but there's just 4 categories. And then from that, but our main source of funding is contact hours. So when you see we're over 90,000 hours, that allows us to grow. The rest is, it all comes together, but our contact hours is our main source of revenue. And so this year and last year, they've really had a high focus on attendance. And if you don't attend enough, they politely ask you to refocus and let somebody else come that can come every day so they can benefit from that. And in community ed, there's some state and federal grants, or funding. And then we try to charge enough to break even for the class. But like you notice, like maybe aquatics, we know how important that is to our community. So we know it's either right to break even or even at a little loss, just so that we make it affordable so everybody can chip in, or we waive a lot of fees if they ask. But ideally, it's break even, or we can make a little bit of money. Facilities is different. We know that everybody pays that comes through me. We have a few partnerships where they might get reduced, they pay the hard costs. But that's very limited, and that all runs through our superintendent. And then she would say, yep, they're meeting all the qualifications.
So is Teacher Appreciation Week this week? And so I would love to know from, or this month or something. It should always be Teacher Appreciation, which is the truth. But I'm wondering for Sharon and Maria, can you tell us about one of your teachers that really made a big difference in your journey?
I would say everyone, but especially Naomi and Drew. I have learning a lot from them. And Naomi is a very patient person, Drew as well, and I'm really grateful that I share classroom with them. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So basically all of them, but I have to say Drew and Cindy, because they're very, very patient and they're compassionate and they want to see you win. They want to see you learn. So Drew, I really appreciate him so much, I do. And he always picking my brains, y'all, I'm telling you. He always picking my brain. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do? He was like, yeah, well, I don't want to write. Well, he said, well, ain't no way around it. You got to do it. I said, okay, I'll do it.
Thanks, Sharon. I hear that.
And we're very fortunate, so their teachers support them. They're even here, Cindy and Drew. You know, Drew's a licensed teacher. Cindy came to us from the college. She's a former college professor, and her passion now is with us. So we're very fortunate with the staff that we have, and they choose to help our students, not only in the classroom, but you can see they didn't have to be here tonight, and they took time. And then we have a future leader in our community too. The granddaughter came. I won't use her name, but she's one of our students in our community at the high school as well. So the generations just keep going of great students that we have in our learning communities.
What an awesome presentation. Thank you, too, for sharing your stories. And thank you. This is just wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Unbelievable representation of our community, and we're so fortunate to have you here. Thank you.
And thanks for the ice cream.
Yeah. Okay, we have two discussion items tonight. First up, we have the NAPAC, Native American Parent Advisory Committee Board Response Letter being presented tonight by Ayan Omar, Equity Services Director. And everyone has the copy of the letter in front of them, and it's also been emailed out a little while ago.
Almost. Now I'm on. Oh, there I am. Good evening, Chair Haas, Superintendent Putnam, and members of the school board. Minnesota Department of Education statute requires district with at least 20 American Indian students reported by October 1st, MARS deadline, to be eligible for American Indian Education Program funding. These districts must also have an American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, or NAPAC in our case, or be actively working with the Office of American Indian Education to establish one. St. Cloud Area School District is fortunate to have a strong American Indian education programming, supported by our dedicated NAPAC parents, Kip Perkins, our American Indian Education Coordinator, and our most recent addition, Heather Broda, our American Indian Education Cultural Liaison, and of course, our wider school community. Kip and Heather are vital in affirming the cultural identity and past of our American Indian students and their families. They also ensure our staff have the necessary resources and skills to meet our students with care through meaningful, equitable, and culturally relevant education. Each year before March 1st, NAPAC meets to discuss the educational services provided by St. Cloud Area School District to American Indian students. And on January 7th of this year, with the support of Kip Perkins and Heather Broda, NAPAC convened to vote, sign resolution documents, and develop recommendation for future programming. On February 19th, Kip and Heather Broda provided an update on our American Indian education programming and activities to the school board. The presentation was followed by NAPAC Chair Rosemary Wacker's presentation on NAPAC's vote of non-concurrence and resolution. The school board has 60 days to provide a written response to NAPAC's recommendation, which will then be submitted to MDE, Office of American Indian Education. And I'm well aware it's beyond the 60 days thanks to weather, but we still hope to submit. In front of you, you should find the board response. As shared in the response letter, the school board values its relationship with NAPAC and appreciates their collaborative input and ongoing partnership. The board directs the administration to review NAPAC's suggestions, support implementation, and promote greater collaboration to enhance outcome for American Indian students. At this time, please take a moment to read the letter if you haven't done so already. Then I will pass around my copy for signatures so I may submit to MDE. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
It was nice to see there's a little bit of recognition for all the work we already have done. I mean, a lot of times we don't get anything from these folks. Thank you.
I'm going to start off saying that, first of all, you know, it's our goal to have every American Indian student graduate with honors. I mean, that would be the ideal situation for everyone. And it's also our goal to make sure that every American Indian student, that their culture is honored, that they know and that we know about their culture, and that it's incorporated and that we're incorporating it into our teaching programs. I get a little frustrated with this process because, and there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it sends a bad message to the community. It's sending a message to the community that we are non-concurrent. We're not doing what we should be doing. And we have a very strong American Indian program in our district in comparison to other school districts around. And by and large, other school districts throughout the state are concurrent. Their American Indian Parent Advisory Committees are voting those districts to be compliant. I watched one of our local school districts board meeting where the APAC presented, and they had almost no programming within their school district for American Indian students. The only real progress that was made over the course of the last year was that they hired an American Indian on the staff. They hired a KIP. They hired someone like KIP to guide the American Indian education within their school district, and they had a new superintendent who was giving the program more time than it had received in the past, and they were overwhelmingly concurrent. They were just overflowing with joy for what was going on. And then in our district, where I see the number of things that we do for our American Indian students, and I'm not saying there's not opportunities to do more. I'm not, again, our goal would be to have every American Indian student graduate with honors and go on to the college of their choice. That would be our goal. But when you take a system or a program like this, and you have there's no consistency from school district to school district. There's no standards. There's nothing to base this on other than it's a parent advisory committee that's saying, well, we think you're compliant or we don't think you're compliant. It seems like in this school district that our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee has taken the approach that if they say that we're concurrent, we're going to quit. And so that the only thing that they have to keep us engaged with them is to hold us non-concurrent so that we're always fighting and struggling. But again, that's sending a message to our community that our school district is not concurrent. We apparently aren't doing what we should be doing with American Indian students, and we're not giving it the gravitas that it deserves within our community. And I feel that that's false. I think that we're doing a lot of good things. I wholeheartedly hope and believe that we should continue to work with KIPP and with the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee to produce positive outcomes for American Indian students. But this continuous non-concurrence and then a written letter from the school board, which has, I'm going to tell you, this letter right here has been numbed down to where it's really a meaningless letter saying we've received your vote of non-concurrence, but it's not saying that anything is going to, there's no meat in here. It's just a letter saying, okay, we're going to sign this so that we can be in compliance with the state standards. So I have a lot of frustration with this entire program. I understand that this is likely going to undergo some changes in the coming years, where they may come up with a program or a template that avoids some of that inconsistency. But I'm really frustrated with it. I haven't decided if I'm going to sign it or not.
Natalie?
So what I'm going to say is nothing new. The history, we have to think about our history. We have to think of who we've been as a country. We have to think of the things we've done as a country, specifically to Indigenous folks. The fact that in our own community, just recently, there was an Indigenous group that came and exhumed bodies of kids that died under the care of an institution here in the late 1800s. That's not very long ago. It's really not. And so, yes, there's the process and there's the letter, and that's what institutionally we have to do. So that's what we're doing today. And I'm definitely going to sign it because this is the work that we have to do as a community. This is the work, we don't have to do it, actually. That's not even true. This is the work we want to do as 742. So I don't ever measure us against other school districts. I think we say that to our kids, to our students. I don't say to my kids, well, so-and-so in Sartell got this, but you got this, or so-and-so in northern Minnesota. No. They're just really, it's not us against somebody else. It's just us against us, really, or us for us. And what I mean by that is in here you see the language of shared goal. And that's what this process is about. So, okay, there's the process in the letter, and if the governor will change it, maybe he will, maybe he won't. That's not really the work that is really being talked about here. This letter isn't the work. The work is who we are and what we do and what our values are. So the joy that may be seen in another district versus the accountability we have in ours, there's something to be said about the way that this district is, that we are willing to hear the hard stuff and we're willing to sit in the hard stuff. This is the hard stuff. This is stuff that I don't know that it will be figured out in my lifetime. But I do know that it isn't a willy-nilly, you're in non-concurrence. When we hear the Indigenous parents talk, they say graduation rates, and that's true. That's true about Indigenous kids in our district. And we want to do better on that. So by signing, we're not saying, we're a horrible district and we're never going to get any better. It's saying we're in this with our parents, with our Indigenous students. And I could talk for hours on this, as you know, but I would advise us and ask us as a board to see the process in the letter as one thing, but see who we are and what we're doing with our community as another thing. And I'll stop there.
Well, the one part of the letter that I feel is really important right now, not only did Natalie mention graduation rates, but I see an item in this letter that says improved access to American Indian education for all students and staff. And the one thing that I really feel now with all of the change in the new standards is providing the professional development. Not only do we need all of our teachers going up for their 5-year renewal being supported in professional development to be relicensed, we have an effort to re-look at a lot of our curriculum as we adopt the new standards to provide our teachers with the resource and the professional development that is needed to teach the past that is now required in our standards. And we haven't had enough time in our district as we adopt these new standards to develop all this. I was at a professional development last week at St. Cloud State, which was a majority of teachers from another district who were getting relicensure. I didn't see a lot of representatives from our district, and I know you, our professional development, our teachers have the resources and all our staff to have what we need. I feel that I'm signing this letter because there is work we need to be doing as a district.
Okay, anybody else? Or Scott?
I just came from the Native American graduation ceremony, and there were two people there that spoke about their past, and it hasn't been that long since boarding schools where kids were taken away from their parents. And so, some of those people actually remember, or their grandparents were actually gone through the process. And I understand that there's a lot of really negative history over the years. I think we've come a long way. And we're finally getting a little bit of recognition that we've come a long way. Needless to say, we got a ways to go yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a pen too? Okay, thank you. While that's being passed along, queuing up our next discussion item here is the 2025-2026 budget forecast based on state funding. And presenting this is our superintendent, Dr. Lori Putnam.
Thank you, Chair Haas, members of the board, and our folks in the room, and people hopefully listening from home. I'm excited to be able to share this information with you because it provides an overview of our preliminary budget forecast for the 25-26 school year, grounded in the current state funding landscape. As you know, most of our revenue, about 85%, is tied to, our general fund revenue is tied directly to state allocations. So shifts in legislative funding have significant implications for our planning. We'll begin with a look at what we know about the governor's budget and current House and Senate proposals and explore how those have already impacted and may yet continue to impact our budget. I will also share the ways that we've responded conservatively and cautiously to the loss of legislative funding as we completed staffing for 25-26 and as we prepare our budgets for your approval in June. So as you take a look at this slide, before we even begin considering staffing decisions for 25-26, we were already facing several key budget assumptions that place significant strain on our general fund. First, we're seeing the expiration of $370,000 in one-time literacy aid. Its expiration creates an immediate gap in our ability to sustain those supports moving forward without identifying alternative funding sources. Second, we continue to experience the impact of unemployment costs for summer staff not being fully funded. For FY26, we are estimating a shortfall of $250,000 related to this ongoing issue. While we've advocated at the state level for a more permanent solution, this remains a local liability that we had to plan for. Third, you can go back, Shannon. Thanks. Third, the governor's proposed change to the compensatory revenue formula represents a significant concern. As proposed, it would revise the method by which districts calculate this critical funding stream, particularly impacting districts like ours with a high direct certification rate. The result under the current proposal is a projected loss of $485,000 for our school district. While this number may shift through the legislative process, it remains a key assumption for now and speaks to the broader issue of volatility in funding tied to student poverty indicators. Altogether, these three areas alone represent over $1.1 million in anticipated reductions or underfunded obligations, and that's before we even began with our staffing considerations. It underscores the importance of grounding our staffing and budgeting in conservative, transparent assumptions so we can navigate the next phase with clarity and shared understanding. So to proactively address the known, when you add those first two boxes up, that's $620,000. To proactively address that $620,000 made up of the expiration of one-time literacy aid and the underfunded unemployment insurance costs, we implemented a series of central office and enrollment-based staffing reductions. These decisions are made carefully and strategically with the intent to protect direct classroom instruction as much as possible while still meeting our fiduciary responsibility. Key reductions included the elimination of 5 central office positions, the Executive Director of Special Projects, the Learning and Teaching Director, 2 Learning and Teaching Coordinators, and the District Truancy and Attendance Coordinator. We also consolidated special education leadership, replacing the special education assistant superintendent with a single executive director role. In communications, we reduced the director position from full-time to a 0.7 FTE, aligning support capacity with budget constraints while maintaining these essential services. Additionally, we made enrollment-based adjustments to classroom teaching staff, reducing 2.5 FTE based on actual and projected student counts. This ensures our staffing levels remain in balance with enrollment, which is a key sustainability practice. These reductions totaled approximately $620,000, covering the gap caused by those known budget pressures. While difficult, they reflect our commitment to long-term fiscal health and our goal to protect student-facing roles and programs whenever possible. This slide walks through the projected impact of the governor's initial hold harmless proposal related to compensatory revenue. While the name suggests districts would be protected from funding losses, that is unfortunately not the case for St. Cloud area schools and many other school districts. Under this plan, our district would experience a $485,000 reduction compared to current law. That's a significant shortfall, and it's worth stating very clearly that this version of hold harmless does not, in fact, hold us harmless. And our district compensatory revenue is entirely allocated to staffing. It funds district support positions like interventionists, multilingual teachers, and student support staff who work with learners who need the most support. Because of the way this revenue is tied to staffing, we had to make our initial staffing decisions based on the lower allocation amount. The result is a district-wide reduction of 6 FTE, which directly affects our ability to provide targeted academic and social emotional supports for students. After staffing was complete in April, the governor released additional budget recommendations, and the House and Senate have also now released their budget proposals. Some of these proposals include additional reductions, and others include new funding. We are not counting on new funding being likely given the state's overall budget forecast and how far apart the three proposals are. The most concerning aspect of the House and Senate proposals is the Senate's compensatory, again, hold harmless, and the House's proposal to eliminate school library aid. The Senate compensatory proposal will result in a decrease of over $1.1 million, which is over $600,000 less than what we were allocated for staffing. The one positive is that all three have included one-time funding to cover 100% of the unemployment for FY26, so it is likely that that will be provided. While the district has already made reductions to cover the unfunded employment costs, it is likely that these reductions could be needed to cover further loss of revenue elsewhere, such as in compensatory revenue or school library aid. In addition to state-level funding changes, several other factors are putting additional pressure on our 25-26 budget planning. First, paid family leave will add a new financial obligation. Starting January 1, 2026, a 0.88 payroll tax will go into effect. And for our district, this is estimated to cost approximately $600,000 in FY26. And while the intent of the policy is certainly to be supportive, the financial burden currently falls to employers, and we're preparing for that impact. Second, we've budgeted federal funded allocations conservatively, estimating a 5% reduction in title allocations. This projection is based on the anticipated drop in free and reduced lunch prices across the state, a downstream effect of the Universal Free Meals Program. Since federal funding formulas rely on these counts, we're seeing potential declines despite continued local need. Third, we are accounting for one-time local costs, including city special assessments and a special election. Together, those items total approximately $350,000, costs that must be covered through our fund balance as they fall outside regular operating expenses. And lastly, we continue to see increasing special education needs, which I'll speak to more specifically on the next slide. These rising needs come with staffing and service implications that our general fund must absorb when categorical aid falls short. So one of the most significant pressures on our budget and our staffing continues to be the rising need for special education services. Between the 23-24 and 24-25 school years, we've seen an 8.9% increase in students receiving special education services. That's an additional 251 students. This growth is not only substantial in terms of numbers, but it also brings with it increased complexity in student need, service plans, and compliance obligations. To respond, we've had to make targeted staffing adjustments. We reallocated 7 FTE from within our compensatory holdback allocation to support special education staffing where the needs are most acute. In addition, we've added 6 new FTE positions funded from projected increases in special education revenue. This approach allows us to stay compliant with federal and state requirements while continue to meet student needs in the least restrictive environments. Even with these other increases, the demand continues to outpace the categorical funding provided, which is why we must rely on general fund dollars to cover the gap. This is yet another example of how student-centered budgeting requires us to make difficult trade-offs while staying focused on our most vulnerable learners. So in response to the ongoing budget uncertainty and the specific risks posed by proposed state legislation, our board legislative committee took action by sending a formal letter to our area legislators. The communication outlined the potential impact of proposed funding changes on our district and urged reconsideration of key provisions. In particular, we expressed significant concern about the proposed hold harmless compensatory revenue formulas, which, as you've seen, would result in a substantial funding loss for our district. We emphasize that this plan fails to account for districts like ours that serve high numbers of students qualifying through direct certification, effectively punishing districts doing the right work to reach underserved families. We also raised serious concerns about proposed cuts to school library aid. For us, this is not just a line item, it's a dedicated funding stream we've already incorporated into our staffing and programming plans. Its removal would force us to reevaluate key literacy and resource supports in our schools. Our message was clear. These changes are not abstract policy shifts. They have real, immediate implications for students, staff, and programs. And we continue to stay actively engaged as the legislative session moves forward and certainly encourage our community to do the same. So as we look ahead to 2025-26, we remain committed to fiscal responsibility and to maintaining a balanced budget, even in the absence of our operating referendum. Despite significant and growing subsidies in special education and English language learner services, we continue to make disciplined, student-centered decisions that protect our classrooms and prioritize our students. Our approach reflects a core belief that we must do everything we can with the resources we have while continuing to advocate for the funding our students deserves. So thank you to this board and the legislative committee for your support, to our staff for your partnership, and for our community's shared commitment to our schools and our students.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything? Heather?
I'll start sobering. Maybe a couple of things. One is, I think one of the strengths of this district has been that you have been committed always to a balanced budget and making the hard decisions in real time. It gets harder when there's multiple and kind of a perfect storm of hard decisions that have to be made. And the messaging, part of it would be to say, first of all, as a board member, I want to say that I think that the work that you all do to put forward budgets and to communicate with transparency and to identify what the issues are is critically important in a space in a world where there are so many headlines where that's not happening. And, I've been trying to track them even in the state of Minnesota, and there have been lots of headlines about institute or schools that are upside down, and years of either using COVID money in ways that wasn't sustainable, or just abnormalities or things that maybe weren't caught. And I want to make clear that, at least in my experience, and I think this board's experience, that has not been the case here. The COVID money was used very appropriately for one-time and short-term projects, not invested in things that were unsustainable. But when you see changes happening and being placed on you, at some point it becomes, there's no place else to reach. One question I maybe have, and I don't know what it would take, but Lori, this presentation and your explanation of it, I think, is very succinct and it's very helpful. And I know, or I would expect, that we're likely, as changes occur, we're likely to get additional questions, email, and that sort of thing. Is there any way to cut this presentation and so that in responses to parents or community members, they would be able to, instead of referencing, go to this meeting and watch the whole thing, here is however many minutes we just spent on it, here's a clip that you can watch specifically that addresses some of this, because I think, particularly as we've already seen some questions about class sizes, shifting resources, those sorts of things, it might be helpful to be able to send just a link with, the 5 to 7 minutes of information that they could grasp in that time.
I think that's a great wonder, Heather. And one thing that I'd be happy to do if this board felt it would be useful would be, I can do a screencast of this presentation and push it out to to families and staff, or we can wait until people ask. So I'm happy to do whatever this board feels is preferable. Do both? I'd be happy to do that.
I would push it out and then still have it available, so if people didn't see it, you can respond with the same consistent message.
We could put it on our website too. That way it's available easily.
Yeah.
Just going to add a little piece to it that school districts tend to get a really bad rap for always saying, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money. You've got to increase our budget. And we do that because we do have to increase our budget every year. Costs go up, things cost more, salaries go up, wages go up, expenses go up, and we have to be able to pay for it. And the only way that we're going to pay for it is if they allocate more money to us. In other words, they give us a funding increase. Cities and counties, they levy taxes on a mill rate, which is applied to the value of your home. And as the value of your home goes up, the mill rate stays the same, but the county gets more money. So if the value of your home goes up 10%, same mill rate, the county gets 10% more money. And the county is out there saying, we didn't raise your taxes this year. We did not raise your taxes, and we haven't raised them for the last 10 years. But the school district is out there saying, you need to give us more money, you need to give us more money, you need to give us more money. And the context of those two together makes school districts sound like beggars of money, and counties and cities as being very responsible with the resources that they collect. And it's just not the case. We get money allocated to us on a budget. They give us a dollar amount every year, and they say, this is how much you're getting. And it's not flexible. That's how much we're getting. When the state then comes out and does something like puts the unemployment benefits in place, and there's a huge unemployment tax burden placed upon the school district, that money has to come out of a budget that's allocated on a dollar basis, not on a percentage basis, and it isn't increasing, so it's taking money away from us. When they come out with paid family leave, which is going to be a complete disaster for the state, we haven't even begun to see what's going to happen with that one yet. But when that happens, that's a tax burden on the school district. We have to come up with our portion, and it's very likely a tax burden on the employees of the school district who have to come up with the other half out of their paychecks. So now you're looking at another scenario where the district is being hit with an expenditure that didn't exist before, and it has to come out of the current money. There is no more money available to pay for that stuff. And so when we say that our funds are dropping, and when we say we're cutting, and we see these expenses going up and we have to cut, that's because of things like this. And until they can come up with some kind of a solution to where we can see some inflationary adjustments and some dollars that increase annually based on inflation rates, it's going to continue to happen. But it really bothers me every year when I hear, counties and cities are so happy to go out and say, we're not raising your taxes this year, but yet they're getting more money. And they're getting it in two ways. They're getting it because the value of the property is going up and the value of the properties built is increasing. There's more properties out there that they're able to leverage that mill rate against. So they're kind of fibbing in a sense that they're not raising taxes. But ours is a steady, ours is a dollar amount, and there's no fluctuation. There's no way for us to change that. And so the only way that we can continue to operate is to go out and ask for more funding. That's why you hear that from school districts.
So when you talked about the one-time literacy aid, the $370,000, I know that's in general for the READ Act, but was it meant for a lot of the PD that was done? Or I remember talking about it, but I don't remember the flow through on this. It was one time because they put the READ Act in, because they said we had to do it and they gave us some money for it, but now we still have to do it and we don't get any money for it? Is that basically where we are? What was that money meant for specifically?
I think the one time, right, was meant for the training costs, and every district did it differently. Certainly some of the coaching, right, we pay for some of the staffing out of that. And so we saw some reduction in our instructional coaches, right, through attrition. I think the one thing I did forget to say that I'd be remiss to leave out was that with all of those reductions, we were able to either find different different homes because somebody else, if a MHA got reduced here, that we were able to find a different home with a different funding stream elsewhere, like through special education or something, or people were retiring, or moving, right? So we don't have, it's not like we displaced humans. I know that this board and us care very deeply, right, about that. And so I just also want to be clear that those reductions aren't costing people their jobs. It had nothing to do with like the non-renews or anything. So that one-time literacy aid was right, intended for one-time costs, but we know, of course, that those costs are often continuing, and certainly, just like children, we adults take time to learn things too, and so, training is ongoing, and then the support needed to actually now take this learning and integrate it, and then deliver it all effectively is certainly an ongoing cost.
Yeah, thanks for saying that plainly, because I knew that we didn't hire teachers with that money, but I just want the community to know that that's a different thing. I think what's happening with compensatory funding is really sad. I think that that's the number one indicator, unfortunately, poverty is, of graduation rates, things of that nature. And I understand what's happening and why it happened, but it's sad to put this burden on, not that any of our students are burdens, but to decrease the funding that we really need to serve our kids who are experiencing poverty. And that's not something in this community that's going to go away this year, next year, in 10 years. Like we deal with extreme poverty in our community. And so I hope that moving forward, there's even more thought from the governor and from our legislatures about that. That's just the reality we live in. I might have missed it, but I don't think I saw the legislative committee letter. If it was sent up to the board, or no, the full board.
I may have forgotten to do that.
Okay, yeah, if we could get that,
I will
that'd be
send that
great.
to you.
Okay, thank you.
My apologies.
That's all right.
I'll send it to the full board.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Laura. Thanks.
Scott?
I know that federal money makes up only about 8% of our budget, but what does that federal money consist of? It sounded like stuff from the Department of Agriculture for food, or could you go into that a little bit?
To the best of my ability. I don't have Amy here to phone a friend. So the what I was talking about was the reduction specifically in compensatory funding, so title funding. It is based on, just like we get our funding from the state based on our free and reduced lunch count, right? The state gets their money from the government based on our free and reduced lunch counts. And we saw with the changes in the law, how we qualified people, a decrease, that direct certification specifically. And so as the state's rate goes down, right, we get less money from the federal government, in which is being projected at a loss of about 5%. And certainly we know there is some loss, the farm to table, money from the agriculture, and then just like with this current, legislative season, there's still a lot that's up in the air. We know that's the same with the federal government, but there's been some potential forecasting of some cuts to Title III, some potential cuts to 2 and 4, all of which would also significantly impact us. But again, we won't know until the cake comes out of the oven. So.
Okay, so some of this is Department of Agriculture, but a lot of it is just plain old money.
Yes, most of it would be dispersed through the Department of Education.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for putting that all together. Next up, then, we're moving to reports. We have the Board of Education Standing Committee reports. I believe we have 3 tonight. First, we have the Board Development Policy Governance Committee Chair, Zach Dorholt.
So the committee met on April 23rd, and Executive Director of Finance Business Services, Amy Scalrud, presented proposed board policies 721, Uniform Grant Guidance Policy regarding federal revenue sources, 704, which is development and maintenance of an inventory of fixed assets and a fixed asset accounting system, and 798, purchasing procedures, soliciting prices, bids, and quotations. Assistant Superintendent Harris presented proposed board policies 203, which is operation of the school board governing rules, and proposed board policy 203, school board procedures, rules of order. Policies were reviewed, and policies 721, 704, 798 were recommended to move forward for a first read at the May 21st board meeting. That's all I got.
Thank you. And then we have the Legislative Committee Chair, Al Dahlgren.
Yeah, the Board Legislative Committee met on April 21st. We had a couple of different items on the agenda. The first one was a presentation from Jerry Van Korf concerning the St. Cloud Education Rights Advisory Council. Just Jerry giving us an update on what's been going on with that. And I'm not going to read through that right now. There's been a lot of back and forth with MDE and SCARAC, and they've come to some settlement agreements. And there's a task force that has been developed to work on education funding. And it's just kind of going back and forth between Jerry and the state right now, and it's a lot more complicated than I actually really understand. So rather than say something wrong, but I will send the report to everybody. And it's outlined what we discussed in there. The second thing that we talked about was our legislative priorities discussion for 24-25, and those were already set. They were set by the board. I just wanted to have a copy of that and that we would acknowledge that in our meeting. And then the third thing was a member discussion on what the goals of the committee are. And you know, we discussed where we want to go with it, and we came up with a few of our goals. One is to, as a group, monitor and watch what's happening at the legislature and within the state, and just try to stay abreast of what is going on and where we can advocate and where it is helpful for us to advocate. Second is to come up with a legislative platform annually. And the third would be to do things such as what we just did with writing a letter to the legislature, advocating on behalf of St. Cloud for our funding and our funding issues, and just trying to remain active that way. We are going to meet quarterly, I believe, and one of the things that we wanted to do is, prior to pulling our legislative platform together, that we would meet with the representatives of the teachers union or of the unions and see if there's some common ground where we can get the unions on board too, so that we would be able to go forth with a legislative platform that has common ground between the union leadership and the legislative committee and the school board, to see if we can't get better follow through and get better get more ears on those issues as they occur. So right now we're looking at sometime this fall, we would hold a meeting along with the union leadership prior to setting a legislative platform moving into the end of the year. That was about it.
Scott?
We did a legislative platform in January, didn't we?
Yeah, I said that.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're doing is looking ahead for the future then. All right.
Thank you. And then we have Personnel Negotiations Committee Chair, Natalie Copeland.
Yes, we met on April 22nd. We talked about two things. One was that the committee recommends, consistent with past practice, a one-time 5-day vacation payout for the superintendent as compensation for unused vacation days due to the referendum campaign and presentation schedule. So payment will be reflected, that payment will be reflected on the consent agenda on May 21st at our board meeting, and then it would be set for payment on the May 31st payroll. And the other item we talked about was that we reviewed the superintendent's proposal for executive contract changes for assistant superintendents and executive directors of finance and human resources for 25-26. This alignment to align placements with new executive contracts for operations, technology, and innovation, and special education. So the committee reviewed salary comparisons and budget implications and is supporting the recommendations to move the contracts forward for full board review and approval, and that would happen on June 6th of 2025. And that's it.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Then we have future agenda items. The May 21st, 2025 board meeting topics will include the district retiree recognition, and that will be held at 5:45 p.m. before our board meeting. We will have at the board meeting transitional services update, graduation and end of year celebrations, the 2025 summer school review, approval of list of graduates for Apollo and Tech High School, and some policy readings. At this time, does any board member wish to suggest a future agenda item? Okay. Last up for tonight, we have school updates. We have Nikki Hansen, Assistant Superintendent of E5 Learning, Dr. Jason Harris, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, and Shannon Avison, Assistant Superintendent of E12 Educational Services.
All right, good evening, Chair Haas, Superintendent Putnam. Tonight, for our elementary update, we get to hear from our early childhood programming as well as our Kennedy Colts. Here, featured in our safety photos, you will see our Corey View students who, during a construction theme month, our preschoolers eagerly stepped into the roles of little builders, proudly wearing their yellow safety construction hats with their smiles on their faces and hats firmly placed. They explored building activities with creativity, teamwork, and curiosity. And there to the right, you will see our second grade students at Kennedy learning about water safety in our partnership with the YMCA. For belonging, you will see our Corey View Littles and our ECFE families gathered in a circle greeting, creating a welcoming space where everyone felt seen and connected. This simple yet meaningful activity helped build a sense of belonging as children and parents greeted one another, shared smiles, and strengthened their community together. And on the right, you will see two Kennedy students who kicked off the school year as they had friendship time with their classes and worked on various activities to build community, including making friendship bracelets. Here we see collaboration highlighted. At Quarry View, we know it takes a village to raise a child. Here you see a Rotarian partnering with a preschooler during an art activity, working side by side to create imaginative artwork. Through their collaboration, the child experienced encouragement, conversation, and shared the activity. As to the right, you will see two Kennedy students there working on coding with one of their robots. And then lastly, excellence through high expectations and high support. You see here at Quarry View, during a table activity, preschoolers engaged in building and working with letters, strengthening both their early literacy skills and fine motor development. This hands-on experience promotes excellence by encouraging letter recognition and emergent writing. And at Kennedy, you will see our 5 through 8 students have the opportunity to obtain a responsibility pass where they need to consistently show and lead in the COLT way of being kind, safe, and responsible. These students are rewarded for showing their exemplar behaviors, and here is one of the celebrations, a root beer float party with a table of friends.
All right, good evening, Chair Haas, Superintendent Putnam, board members. We're gonna update all the high schools, McKinley Tech and Apollo. Safety was created specifically in the sense of our art students created work. You see a picture on the left side with Mr. C. They created this, a portrait of him in the hallways. And then on the right side, you see tech students had an art show, and they created safety specifically in the visual arts of the pictures, right? I was walking through and this just grabbed me from some of the students specifically around that. And so they created safety in their visual arts. Belonging, we had over 100 newcomer students from Apollo take part in going to a field trip between St. Cloud State and St. Cloud Technical to really start to look at their post-secondary career options. Students came back real energized and just seeing the setting on a college university setting. Collaboration took place specifically with our Field of Dreams, great season for Tech girls softball. That was created specifically by Elizabeth Henna. She's a Tech alum, but new district employees specifically in the visual arts, and they created a 23 Dreams film kind of documentary of that great season. You see in the middle pictures, Tech on the top had a family, Southside Family Night. You have families come in and just have fun with the students. And then you see down at the bottom, the Adams family. Tech staff and students created some great work with our new state of the arts auditorium with Adams family. And then on the further end, you see both signing days from Tech and Apollo for students signing on the next stages of their academic career. If it was, we even had this year students that signed for the services and then the arts. And so we had a wide range. So that was a great collaboration amongst our folks. And then high expectations, then high supports. Resource training awards students that within our local area, high school seniors, that have demonstrated academic excellence, leadership, and contributions to our community. We had 8 students from our district, 4 from Apollo and 4 for Tech that were awarded within that Students of Excellence Award. And then you had our bilingual SILs at Tech and Apollo. And we had multiple students that were awarded in multiple languages. I think 15 different languages around that were awarded. And so just some great things taking place there around excellence within our school community.
Good evening. I'm going to highlight some of the recent professional development that was given by our special education team and our student services teams. As part of our professional development day at the end of March, our mental health staff, which we have about 80 to 90 mental health related staff, had the opportunity to tour the Child Advocacy Center and Clara's house. Multiple tours had to be offered because they kept filling up. And it's just a great opportunity for our staff to see those spaces and really get to know those programs so that they can connect our families to those valuable resources. So that was well received. Belonging. Some of you may have heard, we were super excited. Kate Swenson, she's from Minnesota and known across the nation, is an author, creator of the blog, Facebook page, Finding Cooper's Voice. She speaks regularly about autism, parenting, and motherhood. Our special education director, Danny Mayer, coordinated a speaking event for the community in March, and then she presented the next morning to an auditorium filled with staff for our professional development day. And we had several staff who said this was the most amazing professional development experience they've ever had. It was just amazing to have that opportunity, not only for our community, for our parents, but also for our staff. So a huge thanks to Danny. Collaboration. SEAC, that same evening, we had our Special Education Advisory Council met that evening. And SEAC is a group of parents, community members, and school staff that advises and advocates for students with disabilities and their families. We did send an invitation over to over 3,000 families, and that included the invitation to Kate Swenson's event. While we didn't get quite the turnout we wanted for the SEAC meeting, we still did get some new parents to join us, and we really genuinely appreciated the opportunity to hear from them. And then high expectations and high supports. Our amazing mental health team got to learn a little bit more about CRY. That's our crisis responses initiative, a partnership that we have, as well as JCAT, another partnership that we have, the Juvenile Community Action Team. And they are partnerships with law enforcement and Stearns County, and they provide wraparound services to our students and families. So a great opportunity for our mental health team to learn more about those resources as well.
Thank you. I have to apologize. I rolled right from the board meeting into the work session, and Jan sent me a text. So she said, well, that was at 7:51. So here we are. I'm asking for a motion to adjourn the work session, I guess, and the board meeting at 7:51.
So move.
A motion by Scott and a second by Natalie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, that is adjourned then, 8 o'clock on the nose. Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks for watching. We'll be back May 21st.
Hey, Adam, how many gyms have pickleball courts?